I interned with NAMI. I interned with NAMI towards the end of my military service out of Fairchild for about 6 months. And then about 4 or 5 months after I had left, I got a notice that a resource navigator position was opening up. So I applied, and I'm kind of the inaugural position holder here at NAMI. So a little bit about what my position is. While not being a crisis center, NAMI Spokane gets phone calls and emails of folks looking for behavioral health services. As I'm sure you're all very aware, it could be a complicated landscape for folks to navigate. So I take calls and emails from folks who are looking for therapists, where their general practitioners aren't able to connect them with someone appropriate. So I work with that. I field calls about housing, about addiction, about interpersonal struggles, about inpatient care, outpatient care, a lot of different areas. And while NAMI doesn't have direct services for all of those, I, you know, am able to direct folks in the right direction. And yeah, so I'm welcome to uh, answer any questions you guys may have and talk a little bit more about what I do.
Robert, this is Kim. Thank you for being here. Hey, couple questions. What, if you have a sense of this, what's sort of the most common resource you're being asked for? Number one, I guess. Number two, do you have a sense of when you're trying to assist folks with finding behavioral health clinician or something along that line? Do you have a sense of how long it's maybe taking for folks to get connected? And then number three, are you folks doing follow up with folks after the initial calls?
Sure, I appreciate those questions. Number one, our most common, it's pretty close between, as I said, folks looking for therapists, and that would probably be tied, if you will, with family members of those with mental health conditions, looking for either how to navigate the system themselves or just for how to deal with that. I think that's where NAMI Spokane really shines, is that there's services for folks who are afflicted with mental health symptoms, but for a family member of someone who's going through behavioral health crisis, mental health crisis, they may not necessarily feel there are resources out there for them. So we have a support group specifically dedicated to family members of those with mental health conditions speaking to other family members. And I field a lot of calls of someone's aunt or nephew or brother or roommate saying, hey, my loved one's going through this and I have no idea what to do. This is the first time I've ever even thought of, mental illness as a thing or something that I need to recognize in my personal life. So both connecting folks with a therapist and kind of helping family members navigate it are the most common calls I take. So your second question, how often, or rather, how quickly are folks matched with a therapist? It's hard to say. There are days when I speak to someone and then I come to find that they're pretty quickly matched with somebody. It's also a bit of it depends on the caller. Sometimes the back and forth is really good and I don't need to kind of follow up with them. They'll call me and say, hey, this person wasn't a good fit, or hey, this person didn't get back to me. Who else do you have? And then there are folks who, even if they don't get matched up, I have to call them and ask. So it depends on the person. And I'd say private therapists are a bit different than outpatient stuff. There are definitely wait lists for both, but outpatient, I send a lot of folks to the RISE program just because their wait list runs a bit quicker than some other ones. And they have a good reputation. And I'm sorry, what was the third question you asked?
It had more to do with, I think, follow-up, like, are you, and not to say that you have to by any means, but are you sort of tracking your data in the sense of being able to follow up with folks on were they able to establish care or secure whatever resource they were looking for?
No, I'm glad that you asked that question because I do track that. It's usually by the end of the month, I'll start circling around again, albeit I do it more in a sense of like a friendly neighbor kind of a phone call, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like we talked a few weeks ago, you were struggling about this, or your brother was struggling about that. How's it going? So, and obviously there are calls where that's not appropriate or not necessary, and I won't follow up with them, but there is a percentage of calls that I follow up on each month, and I mark that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, Robert, are there things that you're seeing when you talk to family members and roommates that you've been able to identify that there's an unmet need for the loved ones, the people who are supporting people with mental illness that we need to fill? Is something that could be done at the county or city level or state level, or policies that need to be changed?
As far as loved ones, well, it's I've I've heard from the perspective of loved ones who are concerned about, their family member that, there isn't enough services or that it's getting connected with a therapist is so hard. I also co-facilitate our connection support group, which is our support group dedicated for those with mental health conditions, speaking to other folks with mental health conditions. And their attendees at that group say the same thing I hear with folks on the phone, that it's so hard to find a therapist, or when you do, it's $150 an hour, and they can only afford to go once a month or twice a month. So that's something that they're concerned about. And I think there's also a bit of stigma involved with mental health conditions and just navigating that. And I think that's where NAMI is doing a real good thing in this community, is just having this conversation in a non-judgmental way. Because I take calls from folks who, like I said, have maybe didn't even believe mental illness was a thing. So continuing to kind of have the conversation and to just destigmatize mental health. We run, this is not something that I do, but my coworker Amanda does presentations at schools and companies for, have their operations be more in a more destigmatized way. They're called Ending the Silence and In Your Own Voice. So NAMI and some other great organizations in town are helping out in that regard. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
I will say that we have not had the volume of calls that amongst younger folks than we'd like. I'm 32. The vast majority of our calls are over 40, let alone folks that are younger than me or even in their teens. That's just not a demographic that, for whatever reason, we've come across. So while we've had presentations in schools and attendance is good, that's just not a demographic that we've had a lot of success with up to this point. We're definitely taking steps to address that, but youth mental health is crucial, and that's something that we're hoping to work towards moving forward.
Gail.
Let me lower my hand. Thank you for calling, and thank you for being here. And Robert, it's really nice to see you. I'm with the Office of Behavioral Health Advocacy, and we also take a lot of those kinds of calls. So I would love to connect with you after this meeting at some point, so that we can share information. It's been a while since I've been able to be in contact with NAMI, so I'm so happy that you guys are in place and doing more out in the community. And that was just my comment.
Thank you, Gail. I have actually sent folks your phone number for folks that are looking for advocacy stuff. So I appreciate getting to meet you over Zoom. And yeah, I'd love to talk after this.
This is Kim. Likewise, Robert, thank you for being here. Yeah, it's great to hear that NAMI is doing some new things. So wonderful resource. So thank you very much.
No problem. Great to meet you.
All right, I think we are on track here to move on to our next agenda item. Thank you again, Mr. Lang. It is always good to hear that the National Alliance for Mental Illness is active in our community. I know personally for my family, if I can take a moment, 20 years ago, NAMI helped my family out as well. So I just want to say thank you. It's nice to see that continuing.
No problem. And yeah, if anybody needs anything, feel free to reach out.
So I think now we've got the administrative update, and that'll be Ashley filling in for Jessica today.
Correct. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Ashley McGee here. I think last time during this meeting, I introduced myself as the AOT program coordinator. Since that time, I've moved into a new position here with our ASO as the integrated behavioral healthcare manager over our ASO. And so I'll be jumping in probably more frequently. You might hear from me more frequently. I'm happy to be able to do that. So Jessica is out today, but we wanted to provide an update on the opioid settlement funding public feedback survey that we initiated back in the beginning of November. It is still open. It's open until December 1st. And again, this is a survey that's requesting Spokane County residents' public feedback on priorities for spending of the opioid settlement funds that we'll be receiving in Spokane County. And we've received over 200 responses. Most of the feedback has indicated a desire for funds to be utilized on preventative services and direct treatment. And we will be collating all that information into a pretty report once that closes on December 1st. So look for more updates on that the next time we meet. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Gail.
I was wondering, is that survey on your website?
It is, yes.
Good, I'll go look for it. I'll find it and see if I can spread it out further.
I'm sure we can look it up and post it in the comment section here too.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, of course. And on to the next item, if there's no other questions or comments on that section. We have legislative updates. And so this is just kind of to keep you apprised that we will be watching legislation moving into this next season to see anything that is impactful. Thank you, Katie, for putting that in there. To see if there's anything impactful to our service network and our region. I know there is at least one bill that we've already heard of that kind of is offering are expanding and providing liability protection to crisis call center staff and mobile crisis response staff that the HCA has been working on, and we'll be keeping tabs on legislative items that are coming through. Any questions or comments on that end? Hearing none, seeing none. All right. Next item, I believe last time we talked about Maddie's Place and that we'd be putting a request for funding through to our Board of County Commissioners, and we did do that. And just as a background, Maddie's Place is a facility, one of 4 in the nation here in Spokane, providing unique treatment services for babies that are born addicted to substances, NAS, as well as transitional services for mothers. We've had all of our commissioners, as well as our sheriff and undersheriff, that have come and toured Maddie's Place and really invested in the work that they're doing there and wanting to help do more. That went through with our Board of County Commissioners, and they approved a 20% funding for Maddie's Place. And so that will be going for signing next week, or the 12th, the week of the 12th. And it really just is a great community resource for our community, as well as a response to the opioid crisis that we're facing. So we're really excited to be able to provide some funding and oversight, hopefully help them do more good for our community. Questions or comments on that?
And just as a primer for the BHAB, Maddie's Place will be an ongoing investment opportunity for opiate and opiate for our response to the opiate crisis within our community, in the fact that it's one of the unique aspects of not only is it response to those that are already on opiates, right? We're talking about women who are utilizing drugs and or other substances while pregnant, but also about future generations. And so really it's a really unique inflection point for us to be able to invest funds to be able to have basically 2 birds with 1 stone, right? We're talking about really looking at investing in the lives of women who want to, for the most part, and address and change some of the impacts that are going on in their personal lives. But more importantly, they want and have a driving force for changing the lives of the infants that are within the facility. So this is 2-part, right? There's women who have infants, and after they are born with neonatal abstinence syndrome, right? Use within vitro. There's also people who have and or are adopting babies who are themselves are not the biological mothers, but have and are set to adopt them, either be it direct adoption or foster care or foster to adopt, or even the state DCYF who's taking those babies. There needs to be a place for those. And then also those babies as they transition into functioning long-term. And this is that area we're investing our dollars in. And the county found that to be a very unique and very pivotal point for our community. And it's one that we're looking to invest in. Now, what is the long-term impact? We don't know. We don't know what the impact of opiate as it pertains to individuals that are specifically affected as NAS. But I think it's underreported for the simple reality. Infants and mothers who come into the hospital aren't always identified by the hospitals, nor are they turned away appropriately in the way for the services necessary to meet their needs. Oftentimes, those points by which they are discharged from the hospitals can be transitional housing centers, homeless shelters, or other what they call centers, safe centers for individuals that are transitioning from drugs, meaning you're not penalized if you use it, but itself is not a requirement for not using as a prerequisite for housing. Thinking of sober housing. You're not required to have that. But a lot of moms are being discharged to facilities where fentanyl is being utilized, and that's not a great situation for someone who is wanting to stop, and that constant trigger is there. Maddie's Place provides an opportunity to not only support the mother, but the baby as well. So we'll be looking from the ASO side and the Community Services Division to heavily encourage the county to support more money, because we really firmly believe every dollar spent here is an investment and a windfall of return later in life. Not only that, there should never be an aspect where an individual and a child is ever blamed, made to feel that they're not worth or have the need or response or have the necessary services to meet their needs that early in life, nor should there ever be a reason why we shouldn't support those who desperately need that help. And so I think the county has seen that, but more importantly, the state needs to see that. So as we work with the state to invest in that, please wait with us. We'll be also working to invest the county to support the community. And I know this is an area where a lot of BHAB has expressed in the past. We just wanted to make that as a call out. I don't think we're done. So more work to come.
Thank you for that, Justin. And I think the next 2 points you were going to cover, Justin.
Oh yeah, bounce back to me. BHAB recruitment. So one of the things that we were wanting to just bring forward to the BHAB is how vitally important your feedback, engagement, and not only your involvement within the community, but your direct expertise as it pertains to the ongoing services. So we wanted to make this an ask that if the board members and the participants here have anyone that they're thinking or would be beneficial to support the BHAB, or would like to see more members join, we would highly encourage that. Or if there's any feedback from the BHAB members as to what the ASO could do to support individuals and engaging them for that, something what we would like to do in the next year. This is coming around for 2024, and we firmly believe everyone here that's participated last year has given such valuable feedback that we also want to ensure that we're lightening the load in a sense, but being able to share that amongst the members here are stalwart. We want to support you all by also ensuring that when members are there, you don't feel like you have to rush if there is not a quorum. If we have enough members, we also have that support, the feedback and engagement, but we also have a member's backup in the case that life always occurs. So I want to make sure to just put that out there. Please let us know if there's anything we can do. And if there's anything or anyone that you feel would be valuable addition to this BHAB, please let us know. We'd love to reach out. You can reach out. Please let us know how you'd like to do that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm Lori Moon. I am a nurse practitioner. I do child and adolescent behavioral medicine. And I ended up having to take Mondays off in order to be able to attend. I had to change days off. Is there any way we can do it later? Because they weren't able to accommodate at work because the caseload's so high.
You mean a different day of the week?
No, just any day but later, because I think more people would be more open to attend, at least in healthcare, if it wasn't during work hours.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone down this road before, and we found is that if individuals doing it as part of their job, then they're able to attend, and individuals in the community are able to. Since we're doing this via Zoom, the issue was getting people back home that are traveling from outside of the county. Since this option is available, we can definitely look to do that. But I would defer to the board's approval on that decision on time and meeting. We always defer to the BHAB to decide. Now, we would support that, but we would also ask that it not be a couple hours in the evening time. Some boards go till 7 o'clock, and that is a late time for individuals, especially when they have their time and family and dinner. So we're willing to consider whatever the board decides they feel is most beneficial for meeting time. We would recommend being mindful of those areas. And in fact, that's actually one of my second points, not necessarily meeting time, but looking at the next year and the various administrative tasks necessary for the next year. So 2 aspects are the bylaws, and then meeting times, and then choosing the chair and vice chair, which will come for the January 1st period. So per the bylaws, changes that need to occur is nominating and voting in both the chair and the vice chair on an annual basis. That is set to occur. Now, in the past, we've done those for the December period. When that has been bumped, then the board votes in for the January period. Knowing that we always come into a holiday period for December, we wanted to ask the board, first and foremost, when would they like that voting to occur? oftentimes we do it in December, but in the off chance that people are busy, we do it in the, just do a special meeting in the January period and then vote in the vice chair and the chair at that time, and then the meeting would be carried forward. So I turned to Kim and Andrew. So this is a decision-making process for the BHAB. Your feedback and decision for the whole board on a vote on this would be appropriate. I guess the question at the table is, do we want to meet in the December period to do the nomination and voting for the chair and vice chair? Do we want to punt that to January?
This is Kim. I'm looking at, just let me look at a calendar really quick so we know what we'd be potentially talking about. So if we were looking at December, I think obviously we would not be able to do our regular date because that would be Christmas Day. I'm fine, and I'm just speaking for me personally, I'm fine doing it December or pushing to January. Andrew, what do you think?
I'm fine with either. My preference would be January, but maybe my preference for January, my reason for January is maybe between now and then we can fill more of our holes in our ranks, but maybe January, Justin, is January too soon that if someone did apply that they could get appointed by the county?
Well, it's up to the board. I do think yes. The board is meeting for the last time in mid-December, so if someone would apply, have to put forward. All the agendas have been set, so it would be January, probably the end of January, before we, as soon as we could, if anyone wanted to be an appointed member by the board, would be able to be added. Now, anyone can join for any meeting, you just couldn't be nominated for any of the positions.
Yeah, I think waiting till January is fine, just because I think it would be difficult to, if we got off sequence, meeting off our dating, I think it'd be fine if we got, let me rephrase. I think it would be difficult for folks or difficult to have a quorum if we got off sequence, even if we did go back ideally to monthly. December 25th, I think is, we're not gonna be able to do that. So I'd say let's just wait till January, which would be January 22nd for our meeting. And let's plan on voting then with the new chair and vice chair, starting with the meeting after that. Or if we did it early in the meeting, we could let them take over at that time.
Well, and I'm just speaking here, I defer to the board here. Tradition is that the chair and vice chair would continue through to complete that. And then we hand it over. We want to make sure whoever does get nominated. Yeah, they are not taking over something they may not be prepared for. But again, I defer to the BHAB on this one.
Yeah, I'm fine waiting till January.
Any other comments regarding January? I guess I would phrase it as a motion that I would move to not have a December meeting and have the elections at the January meeting on January 21st. Or 22nd.
So I motion to the 22nd of January.
I would second that. I think that gives us a little bit more time.
Okay, any further discussion? Guessing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the motion passes. We'll have our elections January 22nd meeting. Between now and then, I do want to address Ms. Moon's comment about the time. I think that's something that we need to address in the future. So I'm wondering, maybe for staff, if we could make that a discussion item in January, and maybe between now and then, maybe just send out a survey to members and see if there is interest in changing the time, or if this is the best time for people. I know for me, I really like this time. It works for me, but I think we need to hear from everyone and maybe just not put them on the spot right here and now. So just wondering if we could send an email out and facilitate getting feedback on that.
And Andrew, definitely we can. I will say that this did go out to the board last year when we were making changes to the bylaws for the time. The board did vote to continue the time as it is because of the challenges associated with individuals' work schedules. We can definitely put this forward for the January period, but just want to make everyone aware of that. A vote for the time period functionally is going to be limited. Administratively, our team does manage those Zooms. It's hard to ask for a team. I can assign them after work periods to stay to a late period. So just recognize that it will be more sparsely attended is what our experience has been. But it is something that I'm willing to maintain or keep with limited staff if necessary. Again, I make that as a point just to share with the board, but we will put this forward to the January period. All right. And then the last part is an administrative change. The bylaws need to be updated to reflect a name change for organization. Bylaws require that it all go to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval, even for name changes. So our organization is the Community Services Department. It is still referenced in our bylaws as the Community Services, Housing, and Community Development Department. The county made that change. So we are requesting that the board approve us to move forward to making the name change reflective of the existing organization, and that will allow for us to provide the administrative oversight and, again, just functionally administrative in nature so that it's more accurate representing our organization. There will be
We definitely need to, I'd say we definitely need to be current with these name changes. And I know from experience how many documents the name changes touch. So it's really phenomenally high. Do you need a motion from the board?
I need the board's approval to move forward. It will go to the Board of County Commissioners for final ratification. But with any bylaw change, there needs to be the board's approval. Now, this is a administrative change, so there's no change to the rules except for the name only. And so it shouldn't require, in the past, when we've had to do more substantial, the board has had the opportunity for the changes to be reviewed, to be voted on at the time they're reviewing them after a period of review. So a couple weeks, review, vote, and then put through. We're asking the board make a decision if they want to fast track this one just for the name change, since it's an administrative one, or we can go through the regular process. It's submitted to you, you'll review, you'll go back and forth, you vote officially, and then it'll go to the board, which could take till spring for final ratification.
Yes, it could.
I'm motion for a vote. Let's expedite this process.
So it goes to a community services division or department, I can't recall.
Yeah, we're just taking out the housing and community development portion. So it'll just be community services department. Yeah. Everything else remains the same. Even the ASO name remains the same.
Mm-hmm. I would second that. I think it's important. Go ahead, Chris, sorry.
No problem. I was just doing the same thing.
It's crazy.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Justin, for that.
I appreciate it. I know these can take up time from the board, but we appreciate your letting us expedite this. What I will do now then is make the changes and push up the Board of County Commissioners. The BHAB will be provided the final copy, which again will just show the name change.
All right, do we have anything else before we move on to board and community comments? All right, any comments from board members before we finish up here today? And any comments from any of the non-board members and community members? All right, well, I will say, Gail, thank you again for taking notes for people who aren't here. Appreciate that.
For Tom Goes, Mr. Goes, yes. He takes meticulous notes, by the way, if anybody's ever read them, they are meticulous.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn until our next year?
Motion.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
There we go. All right, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Happy holidays, yes.
Safe travels wherever you go. See you in January.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.